Are we doing this? Are we live? Are we on?
Are we?
Can they see me, Amelia?
I don't know. I'm looking at the stream and I'm looking at you and I'm looking at the stream and I'm looking at you and
Okay,
I'm
so
waiting.
for all intents and purposes, let's just do this. Guys, welcome. Yay, we are doing a live signing for my book Messy in the Kitchen. It is officially out tomorrow. I know that people have been, doing the pre-order, and I've seen people posting that it's already shipped. Some people already have it in hand, which is blowing my freaking mind. But yeah, we're going to be doing a live signing today with you guys. I'm joined today by none other than the one, the only, the esteemed Emilio Sparks. He's going to be emceeing this thing. You look like a DJ right now.
Yep. I used to be one for a very long
I
time.
can tell that you've like got that swag down. You're ready to go.
I'm very excited. Thank you for asking me to join you with this. It means a lot. Um,
Yeah,
I've I've known about the book for an extremely long time since it's like
forever.
Genesis and testing out recipes and you and I became very close friends during the whole inception and the photo shoot for
Yeah,
it. You were sending me pictures and updates and the food looks incredible. You were telling me stories that John had to continuously go to the supermarket
poor
numerous
guy.
times.
During a pandemic at that. And for a dude that like him and I have a very funny dynamic when we go to the grocery store that like we walk in, and this was a thing I had to adjust to when we first started dating because we would walk in and like I like to go up and down the aisles. Like I have a plan when I go, but I also sort of meander about the store where he's like laser focused and he just kind of like ducks off and does his own thing, which can be dangerous because sometimes we overlap in products in the cart. But anyways, so yeah, I would have to send John out because we were like up to our eyeballs in doing all these photo shoots, which I didn't know how any of this worked. I've never written a book before. I didn't know what I was getting into. So I was trying to like prepare as much stuff in advance as I could for the photo shoot. What can I just pop in the oven? What needs to be done uh, in the exact moment right before we photograph it? And then what can I actually store in my fridge? We didn't have that much room, which was insane. So yeah, I kept having to send him out with like quite the list of
Right.
intricate items.
But hey,
Sweet man.
listen, he's a good husband. He does the job. He makes
Yeah.
sure that his woman has all the proper ingredients for a successful cookbook.
Also, listen, I know that this is this is about me and my book today, but I would like it to be known right now for everybody that's on here that his book that he's written actually just went on pre-sale today. Crazy, right?
Insane. We're going to have
Yeah.
two successful authors living in the same house.
What a life. We're like, I was trying to think of like author couples. I was going to say Dan Brown, but I don't know that his wife is an author. Anyways, but yeah, you guys can check his book. If you check that out on Amazon, that's on pre-sale as well. It just came out literally today. So, we're doing it all. We're doing it all and
Man,
we're doing the most.
you guys are like the Jay-Z and Beyonce of the literary world.
Yeah, I'll take it. It used to be of like the wrestling world and now we're like making a little pivot into the literary world. I like it.
Listen, so there's a couple of things that I would like to discuss. First off, a cookbook. Why? How? What made you want to do one? Explain. I know you're a foodie because you always have been. Your
Yes.
social media was always about good food, good cocktails, interesting conversation, like the
Yes.
whole experience of a meal. So, was that one of the driving forces to create a cookbook?
Yeah, this was almost in a sense like my Instagram coming to life in the sense of like it's all my food, it's the records that I'm playing, it's setting that ambiance, it's all of those things kind of piled into one. And I think like the idea of me wanting to actually do a cookbook really sort of started out with the idea that like when I was on the road with WWE, I really realized how much I longed for just cooking in my own kitchen, going to the grocery store, buying my own food, being able to just like be in my Zen space. And it is like, it's almost like having a little art project to work on. Like, I love trying new recipes. I have some go tos that are like staples, and some of those are within the book, obviously. But one of my favorite things is trying a new recipe. And I hope that that's what this is for other people. But yeah, even just for me, like to come home and I am a cookbook collector. So I wanted to be a part of that. I love looking through cookbooks. I love flipping through the pictures, putting a little dog ear and things that I wanted to make, all of those different things. So it's really about like the storytelling for me, of course. And this was also this was a big thing for me to have this be like my first project that I was really working on that was outside of WWE, and for me to just kind of, reignite my passion for these other little projects and to connect with my own voice again. I could write whatever I wanted to write. I didn't feel like I had a filter on, none of those things. So this book is like very much me come to life and then slapped into some pages.
Right, because essentially this was the first non-WWE project that you
Yeah.
got to work on. So how cathartic was it to have the Renée Paquette voice when cooking and
Oh my
when
God.
writing this book? Because there are little quips and little like anecdotes within
Yeah.
this book, and there's like accompanying songs and playlists. Like it's
Hmm.
a very well thought out book.
And that's really what I wanted. So it's like I'm just trying to like find like a great example in here, but we do the like having the semi-pro tips. That was something like here at the very bottom you can see I've just like you have like these little notes along the way, like semi-pro tip, a little hair of the dog never hurt anyone, get yourself a mimosa. If somebody needed me to tell them to pour themselves a drink, I will be your gateway. I will tell you that it's okay, pour it, use orange juice, I don't care, live your life, do what you got to do. I mean, there are actual tips in there in terms of like, cooking things a certain way, how to prep things another way. And then, yeah, having at the very back here with the QR codes. And that was something that just like really popped in my head that I was like, I don't know why like this. So you guys can just scan these from your phone and it's going to take you to some playlists that I've been able to curate. I worked on them. I had also reached out to some friends of mine to help have them kind of chime in on like, oh, if we were having a girls' night, what would you want to hear? If we were just having like a nice intimate dinner, what would you want? If you're on date night, what do you want? So it was really all of those things kind of come together. And then also just having like the different quotes throughout the book. I've got Dolly Parton, got Mitch Hedberg, got Bill Burr. So all in Miss Piggy, like just these like fun little quotes of people that I like. And
It's really indicative to your personality and it shines through. You like good food, you like good drink, you like good music, and all of those things should encompass an overall interactive experience when preparing a meal and when having individuals in. And what
yeah.
I love about you is you're an adventurous cook, you're an adventurous eater, or I'm not so much that. So one of
No,
the things
you eat twigs and berries.
I do, I have a plant-based diet, yes, but I
But
know that there are
you have like an extreme plant-based diet at that as
yeah.
well. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm
That's
trying to
okay.
like see what's happening on YouTube here as well.
Hey,
I
we're
don't know how
live.
this I
We're
don't even
live.
know how this goes, so I am trying to like see how this works. Oh, is this it? This is a live one here?
Yeah, we're working, baby. We're
Oh
live.
my
The chats are
god.
popping. The whole thing is
Yay.
up over there. So big up to everybody. We see you.
Yay, I can
Hello,
see
how are
everybody
you?
now. How fun. Oh, I
But
love that. How
but what
cool.
I wanted to know was the adventurous side of the eating where you would take case in point, you took pierogies and then you added shepherd's pie. So
Yes.
like what were like some of the things like you did that? Like I knew that you were also working on an adventurous wonton soup of your own creation as well. So
Yeah.
like let's talk about a little bit of like playing around and becoming a scientist with the food.
So I really wanted to, when you're like putting a book together and it's hard to be like, oh, here's this original recipe. So I was really trying to think of like, what are some of my favorite things and what can I do to make a spin on those? So pierogies, I love a pierogi. I also love a shepherd's pie. And I was like, man, like it's mashed potato that's going inside a pierogi. Let's spice that up and do a shepherd's pie version instead. And I think that it came together really, really well. I had Beth Phoenix on Oral Sessions. It's not aired yet, you guys, but it will be coming out in the next, coming weeks. But her and I talked about pierogies. She's like the pierogi queen. So I would like bounce ideas off of her of how pierogies work and like how to make a great one. And then there's like my French onion soup grilled cheese. That was another one that was like, I love French onion soup, but I was like, do I need French onion soup? And yeah, but then I was like, wait, what can I do differently for that? So then I was like, oh, I'll turn that into a grilled cheese. I mean, essentially, you've got like the croutons or the chunk of bread that goes inside the French onion soup. You've got that Gruyere cheese on top, and then those onions. So it's like I can kind of like invert that and make that into a sandwich. or like wanting to other recipes kind of come from things that I couldn't get myself. So I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to make this. Like the beef patties. Having beef patties in Canada is a big thing. They're at every corner store. You can buy them frozen at the grocery store. They're exceptional. They're so, so good. And I felt like I wasn't able to find them here. There is one really great Jamaican restaurant here called Jammyland, and they do beef patties there. So I could order in from there sometimes. I'm like, I need to learn how to just make my own. And that was sort of a thing while I was doing this book that really opened my mind to a lot of things, like the idea of making a dough and waiting for the yeast to cure. All these different things always kind of seemed a little bit overwhelming to me. And now I'm like, oh, no problem. I found myself getting even more comfortable in the kitchen the more that I was cooking and doing stuff, or like making the squid ink pasta, which, like, yeah, I understand not everyone is going to want to do that. They're going to want to make their own pasta. If they want to, great, it's there. But if not, if somebody wants to like buy the store-bought squid ink pasta, I honestly think you can probably buy that at most grocery stores at this point. Maybe. Can you? I don't know. I think so. Um, but yeah, and like, I do like a cast iron pot pie where, like, I'll tell you how to make the pie crust, but if you just want to buy a pre-made one, no judgment over here. I get it. But I couldn't very well write a book and not put every recipe for every little thing in there, which is a crazy thing to figure out too. So one thing that's in there that you can eat is my pulled mushroom burgers. So it's
Okay.
like done in a barbecue sauce. You pop it in the oven, but I like did my own barbecue sauce for it. So it's all these little things that you don't really think about when you start to do a recipe that you're like, oh my God, I can't just be like, hey, use Sweet Baby Ray's. You have to put in a recipe for everything. It's crazy.
Well, that's the thing too. You're creating your own sauces and you really have to dig deep. Okay, so let me do this and let me
Yeah.
find like what the chemical compound for this is. You literally are a scientist when you're doing this. And, from your travels all across the world for many, many years, did you stumble upon something and maybe you made a note on your phone or in a notebook? You were like, ooh, maybe one day I would like to try this. Like,
Yes.
was there any unique dishes to your palate that stood out from your time traveling that are incorporated in the cookbook?
Yeah. So my corn soup, that was a big one when I went to Japan. So I had never had just like a corn. So I've had like a corn chowder before or whatever, but the first time I had corn soup was actually on the flight to Tokyo. And John and I are sitting there, and just the food that you get, I can't remember which airline we were on, Nippon maybe. And anyways, but the food that they had on the plane was incredible. But that was my first time having corn soup. And also in Japan, they have soup for breakfast all the time, which is like so up my alley. I love that. Like a broth. The corn soup is not that. It's a little more creamy. But yeah, that was one that I kind of tucked away that I'm like, I need to figure out how to make that because it's incredible. So I did kind of tinker around with that and it did make it into the book. I should find it in here. It's delicious though. Give me
It
all of that.
it sounds delicious,
It
and I
is
think like
good.
also too from what I'm getting from the cookbook is also the prep time is a little extensive, but it's really not. So even if you're an amateur like me, you can really, if you follow along and use the text as what it is as a
Yes.
text, it will be edible. So you could eat it and you could have a dinner party or you can cook for a significant other and they won't look at you like this does not taste good.
No, and that's sort of what my approach to cooking always has been. It's especially like when, like, first of all, these are all guidelines. I'm recommending or showing you how I do stuff, but if you want to add different spices or you want to swap out the meats for something else, go for it by all means. It's, your recipe is your recipe, your kitchen's your kitchen. But giving some guidelines to like help people kind of figure things out, cuz like I'm not a chef. I just love cooking and I love the challenge of having a new recipe. I'm like, can I pull this off? Is this going to be edible? Are people going to like this? It's just about trying stuff. It's also just like, for me, sometimes it's time just by myself, even to like zone out, put on some music, chop some stuff, cook things. Like that is like my zen. I love doing that. Um, but yeah, when you're able to have friends and family over and like feed people, there's nothing better than that for me. I absolutely love doing that.
Well, there's a sense of community when you do that. There's a sense of
Totally.
togetherness. I mean,
Yeah. And like
um,
providing.
absolutely. And specifically now, even with the pandemic, The fact that you can have your own, you go and you get your own groceries and you make your own food, you know, like
Yes.
that's a whole thing too,
That's a
where
luxury.
it is a luxury, but also I think a lot of individuals, including myself, really never took the time to prepare their own food.
Right.
You know, and then like what happens is there's a lockdown, and now you're like, okay, wait a minute, I can't just go out and Uber Eats it, or I can't just go and sit at a restaurant no more. I
Yeah.
really have to make sustenance for myself. What am I making? What am I doing?
And those are some of my favorite meals too, is like when you clean out the fridge and you're like, what do I have on hand that I can actually whip this into something? Because you'd be surprised how often you're like, my fridge is empty. I don't have anything here. It's like, well, no, wait. Do you have like a tomato that might be on its last legs, or like an onion, a shallot, some garlic? Do you have some pasta that's tucked away in the pantry somewhere? Like you can make a little something from nothing. Throw some eggs. Let's get some eggs and toss in whatever leftover vegetables you have, whatever, and make a meal from it. I love that challenge.
So was there any of that creative ingenuity in this? Like if you could pick out one recipe right now that just had limited bare bones ingredients that you had in your refrigerator, because at one point, you know, you and John, you were on the road. There might be a tomato, there might be a
Yeah.
shallot, you might just
Yeah.
have some pasta, and then good luck, brother. Cook this up. Like
Make something from this.
make something from this. What was one of the dishes in the book that was inspired by that? Oh man, we haven't went to the supermarket yet, but I have this. What can I
Yeah, I
do?
would say the pasta primavera, because that's especially like when you've got like some vegetables that are like close to being on their last legs, the pantry, you're like your little crisper's full. You've got to empty out those vegetables. That would be one definitely, because you can use kind of whatever you have on hand, whether you have a bunch of, if you've got mushrooms on hand, you've got asparagus, you've got tomatoes, you've got some peppers, whatever you might have. You don't like, I list a bunch of the different vegetables in there that I recommend, but you can totally change it to your palate into what you have on hand. And it's in this really beautiful, like little, like creamy lemon sauce. It's really, really light. It's not heavy at all. And that's something that just like is, you can have it right away, nice and hot and delicious, but it also holds up in the fridge and is amazing cold. Um, Another recipe that I had that didn't quite fall under that category so much, but more so going back to like the pandemic, was making the lamb burger when you could not just buy regular like ground beef in the grocery store. And I'm in the middle of trying to like write this book, trying to come up with 60 to 70 recipes. And I'm like, oh my God, wait, you can't even buy flour because everyone's making a sourdough kit. Like there's all of these things that are going on at one time. So they had ground lamb. And I was like, man, I don't think ground lamb gets enough love. So I ended up making a burger from it, and I turned it into this like Greek style burger with like a nice chunk of tomato, a little thin onion, and then like making your own tzatziki sauce to go on top. And it's very good. It's called the lamb jam. John came up with that name. He was quite proud of it.
It
Yeah,
has a nice ring to it. I
the
want to
lamb
go
jam.
the lamb jam. I want to go back to something that you said before though, because I found it
Mhm.
interesting. You said that you are not a cook. You just enjoy good food. But now
Yes.
given the current culture where if you go on YouTube or you go on Instagram or even if you go on like other social media platforms, the idea of the chef has changed. Where you know you
True.
don't have to go to a culinary school to know how to make good food. And if you've noticed, a lot of YouTubers, a lot of Instagrammers who are amateur chefs have really started to craft a lane for themselves.
Sure. So I do find that fascinating. I mean, I think this will come back to a conversation that we've been able to have before on oral sessions. I believe I was having this conversation with CM Punk about imposter syndrome. And that's where I've always been like that, especially with things that I really revere. And for me, cooking is one of those. Acting is one of those. These things that I love, and it's a world that I want to be a part of. But I would always have imposter syndrome because I have so much respect for what goes into actually doing those things. And I think, looking back at different chefs. I mean, I love watching Food Network. I love watching the likes of like, obviously an Ina Garten, everybody bow down, she's the absolute queen, to somebody like a Bobby Flay, or you could rattle off a million different chefs that are on Food Network. And those are people that have like busted their ass in the culinary world. They've been in the restaurants, they've worked on the lines, and that's not even what I'm nearly aspiring to do, but I appreciate the effort that goes into that. But yeah, I think that's sort of something that always pops in my mind. And it's almost like I can feel that like eye roll of like actual chefs being like, great, this pseudo celebrity thinks she's a chef. We're like, I get it, but I'm coming into it with good intentions and I understand my place in that world where I love it and I don't come into it with like any air about it at all. It's just something that I love and I respect the work that they do. And especially after having, written a book and putting all that time and effort and you look back at everything that goes into just cooking a great meal to writing about it and trying to make something come to life. It's no easy task. So I always really give a lot of love to those chefs.
I want to get into beverage pairings as well because there are a lot of
Ooh.
complementary pairings with the dish and the spirits that you chose. So
Yeah.
let's talk cocktails because you love your cocktail. You love a good cocktail. You like to have a good time. You like
I
to wear your
used to.
party
I'm
shorts.
getting I'm getting back there soon. I
It's coming
used
again,
to.
so just give it some time. But
Everybody buckle up. Coming in
so
hot.
so let's talk about some pairings with the food. What did you mix? Did you because again, like even becoming a mixologist for this, like you're wearing multiple hats
I
within
know. Who do
this.
I think I am?
You can do it all, sister.
But here's the funny thing though, and I was saying this to John. So, when it comes to doing a cookbook, you're like, oh, there's going to be desserts at the end. And I'm not a big dessert person. I am now that I'm 9 months pregnant. And I'm like, give me every dessert. I want it all. Give me everything. But when I was doing the book, I was like, we never order dessert. We never really think to have dessert, but we want to have a cocktail. So my thing is that I just love to drink wine. I'm mostly a wine drinker, and John just drinks usually Jack and Diet. So that made it into the book where I call it the cowboy cocktail, which is just a double whiskey, tiny little splash of Coke. That is how he takes his drink. So I put that in there, and then I was like, hey, well, I can't just be like, hey, go out and buy this wine and pour yourself a goblet. So I was thinking of other drinks that I like to have, and having like a pina colada is something I love. The blackberry smash with like that with the muddled. You could either use basil, you could use mint. Using those like fresh herbs in a drink really makes it like you really feel like you're doing something fancy. It's something really nice to serve up. And I think even like, those drinks like the blackberry smash, that's something that you could also switch around if you wanted to use raspberries, or you had blueberries, or shit, you even had some like just like some watermelon lying around. Like how beautiful would like a watermelon mint cocktail
Oh,
be?
refreshing,
Right? It just
refreshing.
these are kind of meant to like set the stage for like, all right, here's a couple options. You can kind of, it just opens up your mind for other things that you can kind of do for yourself.
But you do have bartending experience though, so it's not like
Who doesn't,
you
right?
you've mixed a few drinks here and there. Maybe
Yeah.
on the Sunset Strip, you had to kick out a drunk for drinking a watermelon smash here and there, or the cowboy cocktail. So
Yeah.
like you are familiar with your way around a bar. Now you're just really stepping it up because the pairings with the drinks have become even more popular within the last 5 years.
Yeah, of course. Especially like, like the charcuterie that's in the book of just like putting together great charcuterie. There's nothing better than having like a bunch of pickable things, like the different meats, the cheeses, the nuts, the honeys, the sauces, all that amazingness, and then mixing in some drinks along the way. That's my kind of a party. I
That
want to get a
sounds like a
good
great
buzz
party.
and eat a bunch of calories.
I love it. So we have a ton of questions actually. I
Okay,
was going
let's
to say
have some
we have a
questions.
couple of questions.
I
So
have to do some signings too, right? How do I do
let's
that?
do it all. Could you multitask? Could you sign and answer questions at the same
I'm the
time?
queen of the multitask. You kidding me?
All right. So let's answer some questions. She's going to put her John Hancock on stuff, and we're going to call this Q and Renee. Look at the
Yeah,
size of that Sharpie.
I know. So I actually had to go through all my drawers. I'm like, what do I even have for Sharpies here? So let's hope that they're all fresh and have a little ink in them.
Rock and roll. We're working without a net
Giddy
here,
up.
folks. We're live, babies.
Giddy up.
Okay. So this is from Brittany from Jewett City, Connecticut, and she goes, "I have two questions. What is your most favorite food to cook, and what are you looking most forward to with becoming a mama? PS, pregnancy looks amazing. You and your family are amazing. I'm so happy for you and John."
Thank you, Brittany. Okay, so I would say things that I love to cook the most, especially like when I'm just like in my own mode, if I'm just cooking for myself, it'll always be a pasta. Give me all of those pastas. Especially like we were talking about the Primavera, like adding like a bunch of vegetables in there. If you want to add in a protein, maybe toss a little shrimp in there. I always love like a mushroom based pasta. That will always make me happy, or like a creamy pasta. I made a fettuccine alfredo for my mom and I the other night, and it was decadent. But again, use what was left in the fridge. I'm like, what do we have? Some tomatoes, pop them in. Oh, we've got a couple pieces of broccoli in there, pop them in. Great. Some frozen shrimp, toss them in. It's a well-rounded meal. And then for being a mom, gosh, there's so many things. There's so many things that I know that I have to look forward to. And I just, I don't even know what that world looks like yet. So it's like trying to anticipate what that's going to be like, but also just keeping that bar very low so that I'm very open and fluid and not feeling like I'm really in anticipation of one thing one way or the other. But it's really like I'm just excited to meet this kid. I'm excited to meet her and to know her and know what her likes and her interests are. Like that's something that makes me laugh. Like John and I will be like sitting on the couch and we can feel her like moving around like the wild woman that she is. She's so active. And yeah, I'm like, man, like isn't it crazy to think like she's gonna have a job one day? Like she's gonna have like friends, she's gonna have like falling outs with these friends. She's just gonna be a little human being. And I do find that very, very funny.
What happens if she's a picky eater in her older days? How
Oh,
are you
I
going to
deal with
feel
her
about that?
dad, so I mean I get that.
This
Her
one's
dad's
from,
like that.
of
Okay,
course.
let me do some of these signings.
Okay, so this one is from Amanda from Bashar, Missouri, and she goes, "What was the hardest recipe to come up with, and what is the hardest thing you've ever made?"
Ooh, well, I would say like the most time consuming that's in there would probably be the squid ink pasta. But it's not even that much. I just think everything is sort of like, unless you want to just, throw together a peanut butter sandwich, which I'm not passing judgment on that because I've been living off of those lately. Um, but just spending the time to do it. And, there's even things that seem like, oh God, am I going to really make clams at home myself? That seems a little scary to like, shellfish can freak people out of like, am I cleaning it right? What if it's gone bad? What if I poison my whole family? Like all of these things to think about. That can be a little bit daunting to even like making like a calamari or doing actually, should say the red snapper. Cooking a whole fish can certainly seem overwhelming, but it is so easy. I promise you. But because it seems like this thing, like nobody just like, I don't feel like people just cook a whole fish all that often. And fish is a huge part of my diet, or at least normally it is. Uh, so having that be part of it and like, it freaks people out to be like, wait, the fish has eyeballs that are like staring at me. What are you talking about? That can be a little bit scary. But once you do it and like the presentation of it's really beautiful. There's a coconut curry sauce that goes over it. It is decadent and beautiful. And I also have a coconut rice that goes like beautiful with it, or a mango salad. There's so many different amazing things that you can do to like mix and match that are all in the book.
Talking about seafood and shellfish growing up in an Italian household, that's what my mother and my father would predominantly make, specifically on holidays as well. Like Christmas
Oh,
Eve, it
do
was the Feast of
you
the
guys do
Seven
seven
Fishes.
fishes, right? Oh,
Yes, we do. Yeah, they roll it out here. I'm allergic to fish, so I can't. But
how sad.
I
You're
know
not
it
like allergic
sucks.
to the point that you can't sit around it though, right?
Oh no, but no, I just can't ingest it, or I'll go into anaphylactic shock. But that
We
happened
don't
later
need to
on.
EpiPen you.
No, we're good. We're good. But when I was a kid, it was delicious to eat because there was a whole bunch of things. And you talking about making, a linguine and white clam sauce or a lobster fried
Oh,
diallo. There is a real
come
special
on.
preparation for this stuff. And you're
Yeah.
right. Making fish isn't the most difficult thing, but you fear it because it's an uncharted territory
Yeah.
to cook.
You think you're gonna mess it up, or like it can be such a delicate thing. Honestly, like this was on, I think it was on Family Guy the other day. They were like talking about fears or something, and they were like, man, is there anything worse than going to like the fishmonger? Because you think that they're just like judging you and that they just like are more worldly and know more than you do. I'm like, oh my God, I've so had that moment of like, so I always go to the Whole Foods to get my seafood because their seafood's always amazing and they have such a wide variety. Especially if I'm doing like, oh, I would love a whole like a whole a red sea bass, something like that. Like whatever it is that I happen to be a red snapper, sorry. The different things I'm looking for to getting like the tubes of calamari instead of buying it frozen. I want it to have been fresh, or the different clams, whatever. I know that if I go to Whole Foods, they're gonna have it. But it always is sort of that intimidating thing of like, can I just get this? And oh, if you don't mind. So when I went to go get the red snapper to go do this recipe, and I that's one of the things that I write about in the book is I'm like, hey, when you go get a fish, like ask the monger they scale it and gut it for you. because trying to do that at home, whew, that's above my pay grade. But that's the thing, is like asking them like, hey, can you help me out? And they're always really cool about it. They're like, yeah, just come back again in like 15 minutes or whatever. Throw them a little tip and call it a day.
That's it. You grease a palm and they'll gut and
Grease a palm. Even with the butchers, I did that. There's my beef tenderloin recipe that's in the book, and it's also one of my favorite things that's in there. But yeah, if you don't see the tenderloin that you want, ask the butchers. Sometimes they've got it back there. So don't be afraid to spark up those conversations and develop those relationships with your butchers.
Stephanie from Boston, Massachusetts wants to go pancake or waffles if you could
Oh,
only pick one.
I think I would go pancake. I think
Same.
I would do pancake. Yeah. It's funny because I feel like, I mean, pancakes have been on my mind a lot lately. I just want like a buttery pancake with lots of maple syrup. Shocker that I'm getting so puffy, right?
Right. I mean, listen, no knock to waffles either. Waffles, you're a beautiful
No.
institution in the
Oh
breakfast
my
food.
God.
Chicken and waffles was a great thing. Even
Yeah.
I've been to certain restaurants in Brooklyn on the plant-based tip, and they have plant-based chicken and waffles. It's delicious.
Oh,
Oh,
that's nice.
oh, we're in
Actually,
for a treat when you come to New York. We're gonna eat.
sign me
We're gonna
up.
eat.
So one recipe that I wanted to do that never actually made it into the book because I realized it's definitely like it's a tall order, but I had this idea that I really wanted to do like a Thanksgiving style take on chicken and waffles. So what I was going to do, I bought a waffle maker and I wanted to take the stuffing and mix that in with a little bit of pancake or waffle batter. That maybe make the ratio like 3 to 1, something like that, and then make the waffle from the stuffing. Then load up all the things, put on your mashed potatoes, your gravy, your turkey, the cranberry sauce, and then indulge in your turkey dinner that way. How good would that be?
I mean, if you keep on buying this book, folks, we could probably get messy in the kitchen too.
Round two.
Let's
Yeah,
go. Let's
that's one
go.
that I've been like holding on to because I did tinker with the waffle portion of it and I made it and it was great. I did a couple different versions of like trying to get the pancake batter or like just doing the stuffing on its own, but that was like way too thick and not really working out. So I did have to mix in the pancake batter with it, but it was awesome.
Dwayne wants to know, and he's from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. What is the dish you feel is easy, but most people mess up?
Ooh. Um, I feel like every time I've been like talking about the book, I talk about the whole chicken a lot. And making a whole chicken is lovely. They're so beautiful. They look really nice. It feels like you've really put in a lot of effort, but it is very easy. But I think the biggest thing with doing a whole chicken is making sure that you have tied the drumsticks together and pinned the wings back. And I do all of this in the cast iron skillet on top of some baby potatoes so the chicken fat drips into those potatoes. Then when I take the chicken out and let it rest, let that meat kind of do its thing inside that bird, I smash those potatoes with like the back of a wine glass or really whatever I have just to like kind of break them up, and I leave them in that fat and then I pop them back in the oven at like 500 degrees and they get really crispy. It's going to rock your freaking world. It's very easy. But yeah, I think the thing when people do a chicken is they're like, oh, did I tuck this back right? Is this fine? You're good. Also, and like I even say in the thing, I'm like, if you just YouTube it, it's easy to find the way to do that right. And just like, it's not difficult. It just seems like, do I know what I'm doing here? Am I going to mess this up? You
Now,
can do
have
it.
you ever pulled out like the innards from like the turkey or the chicken
Yes.
and then like maybe put that in a bag and then boil that and make your own like stock with that? Because my grandmother would do that. She would,
Yeah.
and this is coming from, during the times of the Great Depression where they didn't have much. So they
Yeah.
literally used everything. Specifically, I bring this up because you and Shinsuke Nakamura, who is our guest on Oral Sessions tomorrow, you can
Woo, good
listen to that
plug,
wherever.
Emilio, my
I'm learning from
guy.
you. I'm learning from you. Wherever you get podcast. You guys really talked about from snout to tail. And I giggled
Yes.
at that because I've never heard that term before. But having conversations with my grandmother in the past, she would be a snout to tail cook where she would use every single portion of this animal. So how important is that for like let's say making broths or just even
Oh my
different
God.
slices and cuts?
100%. I mean, it's so beneficial because that's where so much of the flavor is. And I think in America and like westernized culture, we get very nervous of those things. We're like, oh my God, wait. Like, even just the fact that, like, I always talk about chicken thighs, and this is basic AF, but like, I more often than not cook with chicken thighs instead of chicken breast. But we live in a chicken breast world, my friend. Everyone just wants the breast, where breast is not always best. Let me tell you. Sometimes you got to get those juicy thighs in there, because in the different cuts of meat is, yeah, there's more flavor, there's a different texture, there's more fats, and people can be so afraid of fat. We don't need to be so afraid of fat. Have your fat and have it in different moderations, like especially when you're cooking different things, like having the fat in there is amazing. They even in like the burgers that I talk about, like I don't buy ground beef that is not an 80-20 meat to fat ratio. Like that's what you need to make a burger taste like a burger that you're going to love. But yeah, I think the snout to tail, and that's something that like I learned a lot through reading other cookbooks and just watching other Food Network shows, watching different specials, is like, let's not waste all of these great pieces of an animal that, we've already, without, and it freaks people out to, talk about an animal before you're about to eat it. But let's not waste any of it. Let's use every little bit and make something from it. And like, that's one thing that I think of. Like, I was just talking to my mom moments ago because she's here with me while I'm ready to have the baby. And she's like, well, what do you want me to do to help you get ready? And I was like, well, honestly, what I really want you to look into is the different broths and stuff that I should be having, because our bodies need that collagen. We need those different bits of like fat in our body. It's like, it's so good for you. It is so, so good for you. I mean, I'm not a scientist, nor am I a doctor. But those are the things that I want to know more about. And I think using, whether you're using the carcass from the chicken that you made and making a stock or making a soup from it, like, yeah, don't throw that stuff away. Use it all.
Keep it all, use it all. I think
Yeah.
that's why I'm really into farm to table type,
Yes.
just eating and using all of the ingredients that are needed. So like,
Yep.
like a whole bunch of fresh vegetables, a whole bunch of anything that, you can't grill it till you kill it. So you have to,
Yeah.
you really got to like eat it and cook it and prepare it from there. So waste not, want not. I think that's very
Exactly. I
important.
was just literally going to say that exact line.
So Joey from Bloomfield, Connecticut wants to know, hey, Renee, what is
Hi.
your first memory for your love of cooking? And I hope you're doing well.
Ooh, Joey. My first memory of cooking. I don't know that it's even so much cooking. Like, I have memories of cooking. Obviously, my mom always cooked a lot. My mom bakes a lot. My mom makes like, a lot of muffins, cookies, different breads, different loaves, scones, all those things. She's the master of that stuff. But the things that I remember a lot that I think really sparked my love of food is going out to dinner and trying different foods. And I talk about this in the book a little bit of like growing up in Toronto. I feel like I was so lucky with that because it is such a diverse, multicultural city that it's so amazing to be able to like go into Little Italy and get that amazing fresh pasta. Like there's a place called Snelly's in Toronto. It's not there anymore. But my mom used to take my brother and I, and we would like eat the fresh pasta the whole way home. We'd get home and she's like, "What the hell? You guys already ate everything on us." But having those experiences are like, um, there's a really great fish and chips place that we used to go to, and I talk about that in the book as well because there's a fish and chip sandwich that I did because I was like, wait, do I want to do a fried chicken sandwich, or do I want to do a fried fish sandwich? So I went with the fish, but there's a malt vinegar aioli that I make for it to make it like a deconstructed version of a fish and chips, or I guess not. I guess deconstructed is not the word, but like it's a spin on that. It's done on a potato bun to substitute for the fries, and putting malt vinegar all over those fries and all over the fish is the way to go. So I did
That
the malt
sounds
vinegar
really good.
aioli. It's amazing.
Sounds
It's
really
it's
good.
exceptional. It's really, really good. Not
Oh,
to toot my own horn,
no,
but
no,
it's
no.
pretty
No,
good.
toot toot. This is all about you right now. This is all about you.
Toot it
So
up.
toot it up. Toot it up. Okay,
Toot
so this
toot.
one comes from Misha from Houston, Texas. She wants to know, what are some soundtracks that are your favorite all time, whether it's TV, movies, video games, etc.?
Damn, that's a good one. So soundtracks. Soundtracks, I'm gonna go. Um Okay, right off the bat, one of my favorite soundtracks of all time is the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack. It's absolutely insane. Just especially because it has Talk Show Host by Radiohead on there, which is my absolute favorite Radiohead song. I love when you hear certain songs and it just like takes you back to like, I mean, even like if you hear like Maya Sharona, like that's gonna make me think of Dumb and Dumber. Like how there's like certain songs or whatever that just like transport you to a movie. I think Clueless has a really great soundtrack. Fear, the movie Fear has a great soundtrack. Wild Horses, oh my god.
Oh,
Um,
that's a great scene too. Like,
oh my,
yeah.
isn't it amazing? John and I watched that movie not that long ago, like within the past year, and we're like, man, that movie really holds up. It's fantastic. And what about from like some like TV shows? Um, well, I don't know if this like necessarily qualifies, but from like the original Mortal Kombat, I did a gymnastics routine to the Mortal Kombat theme one time. I wish I like remembered it all, but I remember like having that be my music. Mortal Kombat. And then I would like go into like a tumbling sequence.
You
I
know,
also did a gymnastics routine to the Simpsons theme.
okay, if Carol has video of this, please tell her to
I
send
wish
this to
she
me
did.
because we have to post these on the YouTube channel.
I wish
We
she
have to.
had them so badly. I don't think she has any of it.
Craig from Laurel, Maryland wants to know, how does one create a cookbook from scratch and not gain 1,000 pounds?
That is a very, very good question. Um, so I'm in general, I'm all about the moderation with everything. If there's something that I want to have, like if I'm like, oh, I really, really want some chocolate cake. And maybe I just have good willpower. I'll have the chocolate cake, but I just have like a couple bites of it. Is that bad?
No, no, it's not. Because you get a little bit of the sweet. You're not
Yeah.
getting the whole thing, so you're not feeling so guilty.
Yeah,
You're
you
like,
don't need
okay,
to go nuts.
I can reduce the caloric intake with this. All right, we're
But I'm
good.
still satisfied. I feel like I've not been deprived of anything. And honestly, like I think that is almost like a key to keeping yourself sane and happy, but not indulging or not feeling like you're putting yourself on like an insane strict diet. Like I think that's where people fall off the bandwagon a little bit. Their expectations for how eating should go. If you're just like, "Oh, I'm only eating salads and dried chicken breast." Like, yeah, that's going to make you feel mad and sad. And I don't want to feel like that. I love having all of these amazing foods.
I can't
But
tell
well,
you how much I felt mad and sad in my
right?
belly.
See? Food makes me happy. Like food truly sparks my joy. Going out to a new restaurant, trying new things, like I love doing that so much. But it was interesting like while I was doing the book was if I am doing stuff that's like a little heavier, it was a nice reminder to be like, oh, we need to add a little more balance into the book of having different salads or some lighter features, some things like that. It was actually really beneficial to me to go through it all in one go like that and adjust the book as I was going.
Right, but what was the like over under with the pregnancy cravings while creating the book? Because you were preggers while you were writing the book.
I
So,
wasn't.
oh,
Thank
you
God.
weren't.
I was
Okay.
not.
Because I was about to say,
Oh,
because I remember the photo shoot was happening while, like, before the announcement was made,
yeah.
right? But like,
So
so what were you
there's a
looking
little
at?
gap there. There is a
Okay.
gap there. So we did the not by much though. We did the photo shoot in early we did the photo shoot early August. And then I left WWE end of August and then I was pregnant but didn't know it until October 6th is when I found out that I was pregnant, but that would have been like literally as soon as I could have known that I was pregnant. So I missed it was about, a month plus of a window of just at least shooting the book. But it was already written to that point. Honestly, if I was pregnant while writing this book, we would have a completely different book. And not as good. Like this, I'm so glad that I wrote it ahead of time because my cravings, it's not even that my cravings have been that weird. Everything's been so basic. Honestly, all I want, like you and we just finished doing a record for oral sessions. I went downstairs to eat, and all I want is like a piece of bread with peanut butter. I live off of peanut butter. It's shameful. This baby is made of peanut butter. Mark my
Hey,
words.
it's a nutritious snack. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's
Maybe mess
actually not bad. It could be worse.
right. Maybe Messy in the Kitchen 3 will be the Pregnancy Chronicle cookbook.
Yes.
Maybe we could do that.
Yeah, that's
So
when I start like delving into like all the baby foods and get like real hippy dippy on everybody.
so Vinny Meduno from New York wants to know, would you ever consider doing a cooking show with guest wrestling stars and just other friends of yours within like the food world, within the music world, for like food TV or a cooking channel? And if so, how do we make that happen?
Vinny, my guy, let's see here. That's something I would absolutely love to do. That is on my list. It's like a bucket list thing. And it seems like it should be a no-brainer, right? It's like I've got a cookbook. I have years upon years of television experience. Why not mash these worlds together, you know? I feel like that makes the most sense, but how to do that? I'm not sure. I keep kind of like much like the book, you put these things out into the ether and you hope that maybe somebody's going to pick up what you're putting down. So I was lucky enough with that with the book where I'm like, I want to write a cookbook. Is anybody listening? Who wants a cookbook? That finally, when I was able to do it, I was like, oh shit, I'm actually getting to do a cookbook. Hell yeah. So I got to do that. That I feel like with doing a cooking show, and let's also bear in mind with the pandemic sort of starting to wrap up a little bit, the world is carrying on, things are opening up, studios are opening up, television shows are getting back to filming. I think there's just about, we're really close to having an opening, I think, of like wanting to do some new shows and wanting to figure out some things, maybe needing some new personalities in that space. And I'm going to be ready. It's also really great timing because, like, listen, I'm going to have this baby. Could be any day. I could have this baby tomorrow. I could have this baby in a month. It will not be longer than that. Mark my words.
Oh, I think we got to start the Paquette baby pool. I really
I
want to know
actually
like what the
agree.
day is and
Yeah.
how many, like what's the height, what's the ounces. You can hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at Renee Paquette at Emilio Sparks
Perfect.
and let us know. But yeah,
Yeah.
we are manifesting. So hello, universe, ring ring. Pay attention.
Ring a
Okay,
ding a
so
ding.
Charlene wants to know, and she's from Bolingbrook, Illinois. She wants to know, what is your favorite dish you've made, and what is John's?
My favorite dish. Um, Gosh, I think I would probably say maybe the French onion soup grilled cheese. That's the one I remember when I posted on my Instagram and everyone was like, "Word, what?" That one sparked a lot of interest and it is exceptional. It's really really good. I would say for John's, John really loves when I do the hot honey pizza. That's definitely one of his absolute favorites. The hot honey pizza, I also do the Cincinnati chili in there. That was one that I had worked on. I think it was either for his birthday or for Valentine's Day or something. And I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna cook him up something really nice." And Cincinnati chili is that for him. But so he actually writes a little blurb in the book about how to serve the Cincinnati chili, how you're supposed to eat it, all that good stuff. Oh, whoops, dropped the book.
That's okay. That
It's
happens.
I can't bend down anymore, anyways. It's too far gone.
Well, she hasn't seen her feet in months, guys.
Honestly, what a doozy.
So
Yeah,
this
it's
one
it's
comes all the way from Ireland, and Catherine wants to know, what is one of the meals that went the worst for you? I tried once to make a crumb apple pie to impress my now fiance, and it went to pieces, and I was devastated. I talked such a big game up until then.
I've been there. I've certainly been there. I would say I've got like baking is tricky. That's why like I like cooking. Baking is science. I'm not a scientist. I like to keep it simple. And cooking you can adjust as you go and you can always salvage cooking one way or another. You can always find a way around it. Um but I would say one of my biggest doozies was when okay, so we had just moved into our house. We bought our house early December 2015, I believe. So we move into our house, and John's dad and his wife were coming down for Christmas. And I'm like, oh my God, I get to cook for everybody. I get to make Christmas dinner. I am in my element. That is the shit that I live for. And so I was getting ready to do that, but I had not actually even cooked in our ovens yet. And I got this giant bird from Whole Foods, which by the way, I like take it out of the package. This thing like still has feathers that I need to pluck out. I'm like, thanks, Whole Foods. Of course you guys did. So I'm like trying to salvage this thing. And then I put it in the oven, but I didn't realize that I had set my or I did realize I didn't know how it worked. I put my oven to convection bake, which when you look at it, it's like, oh, it'll cook everything faster and it like moves the air around quicker. I'm like, oh, great. This is like a 20-pound bird. I was like, that sounds great because otherwise we're going to be here for 8 hours cooking this damn bird. So I put it on convection bake, and it was basically the Griswold's turkey. You like cut into it. It was so dry because I had tried to cook it so fast, trying to like impress everybody. I'm like, I've got this, no problem. I didn't even like know his like parents all that well at that time. And I'm like really trying to impress everybody, but I'm in the kitchen, like sweating and panicked. I'm like, nobody look at me, nobody talk to me. I'm like looking at John. I'm like, can you like take them out to go do something? Like, I need to find a way to salvage this. So that was yeah, and there wasn't even like fat left over in the pan to make gravy. If you've got a dry turkey and you can at least smother it in some gravy, you can maybe salvage some things. But yeah, that was a little bit scary. Everyone was very nice to me about it though. They're like, "Oh, it's still really good." I'm like, "I know it's terrible. You don't have to lie to me. Let's just all laugh. Let's order a pizza. How about that?"
That's a new Thanksgiving tradition right there, you know, just some
Yes.
just some pizza because they're probably eating the dry turkey and then they're probably taking a sip of a beverage, more turkey, sip of a
Yes.
beverage, trying to be
Oh
nice.
my God. I mean, luckily for sides, thank God for some good sides. But that is the thing. It's like you have to learn how to do these things as you go. And, since 2015 to now, I would say the bird I made this past year was the best one I've ever made. I put it in a beautiful brine. I spatchcocked it, which is when you cut out its spine so you can lay it flat. It's amazing. It cooks way quicker. You get a crispiness everywhere. And I put it on my smoker and it was insane. It was very good.
Was there a Yorkshire pudding attempt?
Mm.
Because I'm seeing that
Oh,
in the chat as well. So let's talk about the
yes.
Yorkshire pudding attempt.
Yorkshire pudding is so difficult. That's one of those things that seems like it should be really easy, but it's not. It's really tricky. So, what you have to do with Yorkshire pudding, I'm saying it like you now, it's Yorkshire pudding, not Yorkshire.
Well, that's me. My New York accent makes everything just sound atrocious.
But okay, so to make a good Yorkshire pudding, I like to do it in the muffin tins. But the key is, say you're serving it with like a Sunday roast or something. You want to take the fat from that roast and pour about a tablespoon into each little muffin tin bit. Then you put just that back in the oven because that needs to be piping hot. Then you pour the batter inside, then put it in the oven. You have to have a hot pan and the hot grease. Everything needs to be hot. So that can be a very, very delicate, tricky thing. But then you're like, ugh, what if they didn't rise enough? What if this happened? So it seems easy because the batter's literally just like eggs, flour, salt, water. There's really nothing to it. But it's one of those things that you want to pile up. Like you want your mashed potatoes on it, you want your beef on it, a bunch of gravy. You want that like that doughy biscuit to just be like slathered in all the goodness. But that can be, yeah, that's one that I've struggled with before. Actually,
I thought it was dessert.
it
Then
is
you're
not.
telling me all about this. I didn't know that it was a part of a dinner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is like part of the meal.
I had no
I
idea.
had what's his name? Will New Japan. Will. Why cannot think of his last
Osprey.
name right? Will Osprey. God, I was like, why can I not think of his last name right now? He sent me his mother's Yorkshire pudding recipe. So I've tried that and it worked out really well because I had been tweeting about it and he was like, here's what my mom does. So you got to get that from like a true Brit. They know how to do it right.
Thank you, England.
Thank you,
So
Will Osprey.
Anthony wants to know, and he's from Burlington, Ontario, Canada. What unexpected hurdles did you overcome as a first-time author, and what was one takeaway from this experience that you would pass on to others stepping into the role as well?
Well, I've been passing on a lot of knowledge to my husband who just finished writing his book. I've really been like holding that over his head as he's writing. I'm like, well, anyways, I already wrote my book and it's coming out. So follow my footsteps, heed my advice. But no, I think like that, the, it's really almost sort of the same way that I'm kind of going into parenting in the sense of like, when I was actually got the deal to be able to do the book, I'm the first person to admit of like, wait, so how do I do this? What am I doing? What's entailed here? To just kind of like go into everything like one step at a time and be easy on yourself and trust that process. And it's such a different process than it is from doing TV. It's a slower process for sure. Going through like the different editing process. One thing that I just loved about doing this book was for me to be able to connect with my own voice again, just talk like myself. Not that I was like not talking like myself in WWE, but this was, I could be a little cheekier throughout the book than maybe I could have got away with on WWE TV. Um, so I was really happy when I was able to like pass off my manuscript and they're like, yeah, this is great. And the editors really did not try to slap a filter on me or to try to like clean up some of the dumb things that I say that are just like, the fun personality part of putting together this book. Like that was something I was just so happy with that it really felt like such an authentic version of me. And I think that made me feel very confident in passing this book off to you guys, and also just in trusting that process of having editors help me and like just in terms of like helping my sentence structure or formatting of the book of how that's going to look like each time somebody else took another pass at it, my confidence grew within the book where I'm like, oh my god, this actually looks like a book now, who would have thunk. So that was really kind of the cool part for that. But yeah, I think the main thing with putting together a book is the patience, because it's a lot of work. It's not easy. But it's a labor of love. You just have to be like willing to give into that.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. It is a labor of love. All right. So Anaya wants to know, and she's from Holland, Michigan. With the ever present nature of diet culture prioritizing being thin over healthy, what is one piece of advice you would give to young people who are beginning their journey through cooking and developing a relationship with food?
Oh, that's a really good question. Wow. Um, Gosh, what are some things that I would say for that? I would say like, it's all about striking the balance. I think kind of going back to what we were saying before in terms of like, I am not about depriving yourself of things. If there's something you really want, you really have a craving for something, I think it can become a little bit of a dangerous relationship with food when you start to tell yourself, I can't have this, I'm not allowed to have this, this is bad for me. I mean, unless you're having an allergy or you have like, real diet restrictions in that sense. But I like to go, like an 80-20, 70-30 ratio in the sense of like eat right, eat all the things that I'm supposed to eat. And if I do want to slip and I do want to have that dessert or I want to have, a glass of wine or something like that, I don't want to feel bad about that. And I think that's something that can be really tricky these days of like, yeah, there's so much pressure. Like, there's sometimes that feeling of, I don't know if like you've ever felt this way, Emilio, but if you order something bad, you're like, wait, is everyone looking at me? Or like, do they think maybe I have put on a couple pounds and they're like, maybe don't order the dessert? Like, those are the things that like rattle off in your head sometimes. And that's so like volatile. What a weird way to think. And it's also a very selfish way to think because
It
usually
is.
people
It
don't
is.
care and
Yeah,
no
no,
one's caring
no.
or paying attention.
It's all up here. And yeah,
Yeah.
I have gone through that. And me and my brother have been discussing that because it's like, what's the right amount to make sure like you're not a gavone, but you want to have a little dessert, but you don't want to overindulge because one cookie on a Sunday can lead to three cookies on Tuesday, and then you're eating a
Right.
half a sleeve by Friday. So what's the
Yeah.
what's the take? But I think you said it best. I think it's just loving your body, knowing the balance of certain things. So if you eat two cookies, don't kill yourself over it.
Yeah.
Just do an extra couple of cardio hours at the gym or
Totally.
whatever,
Yeah.
and
I
you'll be
mean, those are the
fine.
things you think about. And also like when you are working really hard, yeah, you want to be able to indulge. One thing that it's funny, this always pops in my head, and I actually think that it's incredibly inaccurate, but I'll share it anyways, just as like whatever, we're here having an open conversation. But I will always remember being in an acting class, and the acting instructor, who's a very revered acting coach in Canada and in Toronto, and he was like, hey, you guys aren't allowed to treat yourself with food. Whether you've had a good audition, you just booked a great show, you never get to treat yourself with food. And I am not like that. Like if I keep saying to John, I'm like, there's a restaurant here in town that my dad had sent us a gift certificate for like Christmas. I was like, we should probably go use that soon. I was like, what a great reason. My book comes out this week. You just handed in your manuscript. Like, let's celebrate with some food. Celebrating with food is like my go-to.
Oh, how can you not want to celebrate with food? Food is great.
Yeah.
So wrapping up, we have a ton of questions, and I'm thinking we do maybe a oral session special with all the questions that we've been getting, and maybe
Oh, I would love that.
Lauren and the crew over at Live Signing could definitely maybe send us the rest of these questions so we can do that.
Yeah.
Um, so wrapping up, how can everybody get the book? Where can they get the book? When can they get the book? And let's talk about some of these autographed copies.
Yeah. Okay. So I was signing some. I'm going to continue to sign as I hop off of here for you guys. And I have, yeah, the signing has been happening. It's going to continue to happen. So be on the lookout for those. The book comes out tomorrow, May 18th. It's been available on pre-order on Amazon, which I guess now starting tomorrow, less than 24 hours, you can just order that baby and not even pre-order anymore. You can also get the book at Barnes and Noble. If you're in Canada, it's going to be available at Indigo Books. So yeah, just give it a search, check all things out. You can always also check out my social media, because on my link tree that my friend Emilio has put together for me,
That tree.
you all of the links are on there for you guys to buy the book. And thank you guys for joining me here and buying the signed copies. Those are going to be really, really cool for me to send out for you guys. And I cannot wait to see you guys cooking some of my meals. I've been getting some messages already of seeing some of the food being cooked and you guys being able to open your packages and have your books there. I truly cannot thank you enough for supporting me and doing this cookbook venture. It was one of those things that I really just manifested from thin air, and you guys have rallied behind me and it made it a thing to make it an actual physical. The book is here. Like, I have a physical book that I wrote and made, and it honestly really means so much to me to be able to have the support from you guys to be able to join me on this adventure. And it's always a little bit scary of like, man, are people going to care about what I'm doing outside of wrestling? And for you guys to truly follow me onto these other ventures and support me in that, like, really, really means a lot. So thanks for hanging out.
We want this to be a New York Times bestseller, folks. So
Yes.
let's just go there. Let's start buying this book. However you do it, buy the book, Messy in the Kitchen, in stores worldwide tomorrow. Use the
Yes.
hashtag Messy in the Kitchen when you get your books and you cook your meals so you can show Renee. And you can follow Renee on social
Please.
media. How?
Oh, follow me at Instagram and Twitter at Renee Paquette. Yeah, tag me in everything. I want to see everything that you guys are cooking. I want to see you guys flipping through the book. I want to see all that stuff. So please blast away at all of my social media. Hit me up.
Do so. And if you're new to our YouTube channel and you have not yet subscribed, my advice to you, please subscribe. We upload this channel constantly. We have 2 videos that we
And
have
turn
not
on
yet
the
released.
notifications.
Like the kids say, smash that bell. I don't know why you're smashing the bell, but smash the bell. And we have
Smash
2
the
videos.
bell.
If you get us to 90,000, we might release the CM Punk video. If you get us to
Ooh.
100,000, we might release the interview with Big Baby Daddy, John.
Oh, baby daddy in his house. I can't believe he
So,
didn't like barge in here.
well, get us there, and then we'll help you help us. All right,
Yes.
so let's do that.
Yeah.
So again, Renee, tomorrow, worldwide, Messy in the Kitchen. Let's go. Let's do it. I just want to
Yes.
say thank you for allowing me to moderate, and thank everybody for these really great questions.
Yeah, thanks Emilio, and thanks to you guys for hanging out with me, and thanks for supporting and buying the book, and we'll have all these signed copies sent out to you guys, and we'll all cook together. Let's all get messy in the kitchen one by one.